Good morning, Zambia, and welcome to today's breakfast show. We started a feature called What the Paper Says, in which we review the day's papers, we provide in-depth analysis, and I invite a guest to be with me. So good morning, share the broadcast. It's early in the morning to you in Zambia. For us in the United States, especially the state I am in, can you imagine? I'm still on the previous day. I'm still in Wednesday while you have crossed over to Thursday. But my dear brother who is hosting with me, Dr. Brian Sampa, is also on Wednesday, but deep in the night. So we'll be reviewing the press today with Dr. Brian Sampa. Yesterday on our inaugural program, he joined me, and today is my special guest. Quickly share so that we start the broadcast. Thank you very much for joining us on this auspicious day of 30th July 2026, 14 days away from elections before Zambia holds its presidential, parliamentary and local government elections. Just 14 days away. What are the issues building up? What are the issues that we've carried forward? And what are the newspapers saying on this day? Let me bring my special guest, Dr. Brian Sampa, who's co-hosting with me. Doc, mwashibuke mwantu wakwalesa.
Yeah, mkoya ambassador mwabuka shani.
I hope you found some time to rest.
Awe, natutushi. This is now 01.
Pitana. From the time we met in the morning, I haven't had any rest. I hope to rest after this program.
You have to. Seizures.
Yeah, but doctor, we have a nation to rescue. Yeah. Now, welcome to today's program. There was good response to yesterday's program, and I'm glad that you helped me in your analysis. Today,
thank you so
we are reviewing all the newspapers that are ready as at today. Which newspapers are ready today? So we have the Daily Nation. It is carrying voters' cards on sale, and there are various reports. Again, they are quoting the authoritative institution, Transparency International Zambia. The Times of Zambia is leading with FRA has begun to buy maize. Of course, this should be good news to our farmers, but Brian Mundubile and his team have said if the farmers can just wait just another 2 weeks, they can get a better price than what government is giving them. Obviously, for government, this is a campaign issue for both sides. And we'll take time, Doc, to analyze this editorial. It's our opinion. News diggers have a right to support whoever they wish to support, but they've taken sides. They are supporting President Hakainde Hichilema. And this editorial, PF, NRPUP, are one and the same. It's a clique of thieves, and they should never return. That's what News Diggers is saying. You callers, I'll invite you also to comment about this, but Dr. Bransamp and myself will delve into particular details regarding this issue. And the other newspapers that I read is News Diggers. They are quoting President Hakainde Hichilema rally in Mumbwa yesterday, where he alleges that NRPUP will bring back pangas. These are normal scare tactics in elections, where you depict your opponent as dark as possible, despite the promise for free, fair, and clean elections. Then we have Real Times. This is a newspaper run by a former Times of Zambia reporter. He's been consistently running this paper, and they are quoting the ex-mayor of Livingstone, Muleyabai. She's been accused of supporting the independent candidate, and she's saying, no, I've got nothing to do with it. And strangely, no newspaper has reported about the detention and transfer of Yui Mwala, who's the former, just the preceding police commissioner, Copperbelt Provincial Commander, or Copperbelt Provincial Police Commissioner, who is being investigated. There's no news from the Zambia police, and no newspaper has dared touch this matter. Probably they felt that it remains still very sensitive. So we begin, Doc, with
members of the United Party for National Development, UPND, have been collecting voters' card numbers and national registration card details from members of the public in Luangeni District in Eastern Province, Zambezi and Mwinilunga Districts in Northwestern Province, Mansa District in Luapula Province, Monze District in Southern Province, and Kasama District in Northern Province, among other locations. While TIZ continues to monitor and verify these reports, the practice in the districts where it has been observed has generated concern among citizens regarding the purpose for which this information is being collected. The secrecy of the ballot is one of the cornerstones of any democratic election. Therefore, any practice that creates the perception that a person's vote can be tracked, can be monitored, or can be linked to information that is being collected by political actors has the potential to undermine public confidence in the entirety of the electoral process. Beyond electoral integrity, the collection of personal information during campaigns also raises important questions regarding privacy, informed consent, and the protection of citizens'
Kabush constituency kule kuiminine atinani yo ukukuli uwa UPND uli imeo dampumpuni eminine na ba Titus Stylus Sichinga Telampi. Now imeo dampumpuni fuale chitamwe bantu bakwalesa imeo dampumpuni alesenda abantu nga abasenda abantu pa dola hiumo bali okwabomba ku Chinese. Alebe bati lete na ma voters card, aleba pela maduve, imagine duve ya 130 kwacha na ka 10 kg kabunga. Ngabasha ya ma voters card, ale shala aocha. Nomba kusheta kuli abanga mchitako report mwe bantu fefu ale chita. Ukocha ama voters card. Abapoka abantu na bena abantu fipu batabatontonkanya. Apoka abantu ama voters card. Abapera duve ya 130 kwacha na abapita sana bana mayo bale yokukwi na ka 10 kg kabunga bushe busmobu takuli kwa banga mchita report so that abe expelled takuli abanga mchita report wa
personal data. TIZ election monitors have received reports alleging that members of the United Party for National Development, UPND, have been collecting voters' card numbers and national registration card details from members of the public in Luangeni district in Eastern Province, Zambezi and Mwinilunga districts in Northwestern Province, Mansa district in Luapula Province, Monze district in Southern Province, and Kasama district in Northern Province, among other locations. While TIZ continues to monitor and verify these reports, the practice in the districts where it has been observed has generated concern among citizens regarding the purpose for which this information is being collected. The secrecy of the ballot is one of the cornerstones of any democratic election. Therefore, any practice that creates the perception that a person's vote can be tracked, can be monitored, or can be linked to information that is being collected by political actors has the potential to undermine public confidence in the entirety of the electoral process.
So ka spirit ka division wa boss tawakakareke. Kaka division tuwasanga wale wakonde mwa tuwa kataka spirit ka division tawakareke. Even na waleti president wa Kenneth Kaunda na tampo tuma clip tumontu wale wakonde mpokuwa tu yumuntu kataka spirit ka division tawakakareke. Nish nalandire. There is no way ngabali kuri uyu mutundu ni one Zambia one nation. Ngabali kuri uyu mutundu ni remember those days when we were in opposition they used to beat you ngamlega mwafika de mlusaka pa intercity lishmuambo kukono kwa. So is indirect telling those people to say you should not vote for these people because of this and that, and you are just dividing the country. So our boss, can you kindly tell those people to come in front and testify publicly to say yes, we were being beaten at Africa per intercity because of this and that. Elo tuwala imaifofia mkuvota ine ndimu ngoni mwapuidilika pape mfe pamushipati bampezeni ine ba dadi ni bapaya njere ine bojere ine elo nafira kuluba mami ababemba bachanda. Ero na ale mupia mkuvota. Takwala ma elders yanjwe that uyu mutundu we don't associate, we don't mingle, so you should not vote for this man. No. I went there to vote for you and the entire family. We went to vote for you because tuaishwa tumgesa tuteka buino. Mwanza mku preaching a unity. Not knowing that makatako na keneka spirit. Na kwali woku imina tu uyu mutundu refota vya mutundu wakwe. Uyu mutundu refota no kuteka techi muteke po. Nga mwaku mutundu kukumyesuku mlela ndakwati mle preaching a unity nga mwaku myenu ni remember those days abalepu mwani banani abalepu mwani banani. Can you kindly tell those people to come in front publicly to testify to say yes, we were being beaten at Africa pa intercity. Stop what you are doing. Tamupusa na bala fyashima ndabate mwati ulomu kalambo wandi shufana kusoma bana manta mufingiro kuingira muri nganda ulomu aicho wandi shufana nango so tamufingiro kiya mkuchita mingo na bana bako tamupuseni. Elo inenga na rishi wache fumu wa parakura kwa inafya kuruma nale wala kuvota po kama mu 2021 na shami vote because ishifo mu fyashi wifyo tu afyala kuri lesa umwe watu panga chova tumuno muchayo tu aikala umuntu umo munganda imo tu afyala ku muntu umo to aleva papo wa jinzire pole soko bati uyu mutundu wala fyali kirwamo, you don't have to associate no uyu mutundu no tu afira ku muntu unga umusoma mwira pa mleshanga mwako atalali ngamule campaign mule bika pati uyu mutundu ta mule. So you are telling us to say uyu mutundu tatumfwana uyu mutundu tafino ukuchishani ukuchita associate na so ngatulende pala kwa bati fora kuchipata fora mba fora kunoku tatufingiro ku vote wala tumwateka po ngamwali tekerepo wana imwe preach unity not division. If to like ni one Zambia one nation, not one Zambia ukukumbia to remember those days mwarepu abalepu mwana imwe sani kuntashi muntu.
Thank you very much. I had forgotten this paper, The Mast. It's also talking about prepare to hand over, that Hichilema will face a crushing defeat, Silumbe says. Let's start with the issues of voters being bought for whatever reasons. TIZ has commented about it. Citizens have commented about it. Let me bring in Dr. Brand Sampa. What are your views about this matter?
Well, Ambassador, this topic is becoming very concerning because when you look at what the government is doing, it is an admission that they are not popular. And this admission, now they have gone into this overdrive of trying to rig. Now, rigging happens in different ways. they start by, you can do pre-election rigging, or you can do intra-election rigging or post-election rigging. So when it is pre-election, this is when you start doing certain things like what they are doing, buying voters cards, giving people money. And then if it is intra-election, it's during election, like what we saw in 2021, where there was a certain place in Southern Province, there was a video that surfaced where people were pre-marking the ballots under trees. That was intra-election. And then post-election is where you try to manipulate the outcomes of the election. Now, the government is trending on dangerous waters because Zambian people are not happy and they are decided at the moment to bring about change. So when you start tampering with their votes, people will feel oppressed even more. And it's like you are squeezing them in the corner. Remember that there was a report by the United States under their embassy where they warned that there is a likelihood that there may be unrest in Zambia during the election period. They even warned the US citizens to be cautious as they travel to Zambia. Now, when we see all these things, we need to understand that it's because they have their intelligence. And you can see the government is trying so hard to suppress the voices of the people, which is very wrong. This suppression, it's also part of the bigger scheme, like what we have seen the president doing. You know, the buying of the voters' cards has got nothing different from what the president is doing, where he's giving employment in exchange for people voting for him. So all these are electoral practices. Imagine if today it was the Tonsi Alliance, where we heard that someone from the Tonsi Alliance was buying voters' cards. As we are talking, ECZ would have swung in and they would have removed that candidate. So indeed, this is a very bad thing, and that needs to be condemned by every well-meaning Zambian. And Zambians need to open their eyes. This election is crucial, and when that time comes to vote, they need to make sure that they guard the vote, because the government knows that they are going, and then they want to find other means of holding on to power.
Yeah, thank you very much. I got also that clip from social media that expresses the concern that many people have noticed that the pattern has emerged under the president. The president, when he goes one side of the region, he is very conciliatory. He preaches unity. He wants one Zambia, one nation, that the nations should come together. But as soon as he goes to what you would call the Zambezi region, he engages in scare tactics. You know, like he did in Choma, like he did at Land's Corner, like he did in Western Province, like he did in Skongo and Mitete district, where he says, if you vote these people, you'll be beaten every time you go to Lusaka. And that divisive language has gotten a lot of people concerned. Let me see if I have one of the videos where the president was talking about this particular matter.
We've just started working now. We've just started. There's a lot more work to be done. Nyambose Uria, we just said he needs more schools, more classrooms, more desks, more teachers. Work to be done. Munganduria, he needs more bohos in Chama South. Kabusweoyu, he needs more errors, debt restructuring, the damage in the mines, law and order. Tori wambulaji, mwalunga mujoma mwakwela basi weyakulusaka intercity, guseluka buyombo oselugira ate basi hawakujoma ate, vimenye nivi. Batoka kuchoma hivi. Vimenye nivi. Ati tundumwezi. Singombe wakabape, abantu bali kumu ati tundumwezi. Ati mbaba oselugira ate basi hawakujoma ate, vimenye nivi. Batoka kuchoma hivi. Vimenye nivi. Ati tundumwezi. Singombe wakabape, abantu bali kumu ati tundumwezi. Ati mbaba hota maningi kuhotela akaende. Hamuba ome winter city. Sunu yakaba yamwe yakakuba mulaliendela mbomu yanda intercity kunyina umuguma wamuguma ndamwanga banyina bene wabalyawe. Zambia.
So this divisive talk I think is going with the irregularities, many of the irregularities that have been cited. You talked about the issue of that there are intra, party irregularities and post-electoral irregularities, but there are also pre-electoral irregularities. For example, the amendments to the electoral law at short notice, the passing of numerous laws that have impact on the electoral process, such as expanding Parliament from 165 to 281 seats without consideration what stakeholders will say. Already we understand they are spending up to $3 million to do agent and ad hoc renovations both at the National Assembly Motel and the National Assembly seating capacity. These have ramifications. Laws like cyber laws have all impacted on the elections before we even go to vote on 13th August. Then the threat of violence by the president, the divisive talk by the president. Just give us those views about that matter.
So, when we talk about this statement the president has been championing of late, he keeps saying Ingwena Ningwena. Now, I want to bring this to your attention, Ambassador. You know, the Bemba chiefdom is associated with a crocodile. We find that that is a symbol, even the time that we are having Ukusefya Pangwena. Now, just for a second, come to think of it, if somebody came up with a saying that Ingombe Ningombe, because the people associated with Keto are Tongas, then what will happen today is that that person will be labeled as being tribal. But the president has been saying Ingwena Ningwena with impunity wherever he goes. He doesn't care, and he will be saying Ingwena Ningwena. Why did he choose this specific word? We need to be very cautious when we are speaking in public, because even things that we mean differently may be misinterpreted. So he has been saying this. This has been very divisive because some people, and I've seen certain people analyze it, and they have felt really offended that why would he be saying this? Secondly, he keeps calling the opponents as thieves. Do you know, Ambassador, that there are certain people who have stereotyped different tribes in Zambia? Certain tribes are apparently stereotyped to belong to certain sects of people. So others say, oh, this kind of people are thieves. This kind of people are like this. Now, every time the president focuses on that, some of his base believe that a certain group of Zambians are actually thieves. Now, the president knows all that. And when he speaks, make no mistake, he's not just talking about just literal thieves. He's talking to his base to make them continue holding on to that thought that, look, if we bring in these people, they are thieves, because there is no justification. The president believes that this other political party belongs to the other tribe, and then his political party belongs to his tribe. Now, he is forgetting that the people who made him president are not people from one region. For him to even win an election, he needed people who were away from the Zambezi region. If those were the only people who were needed for him to win, then all you would have been doing all along for the past 23 years, you would have been winning the elections because he had been winning those regions. So this is very wrong, and the president needs to be careful when he is in public. He shouldn't be talking the way he's doing. It is very decisive, and many Zambians are seeing past this. Look at what he was just from saying in that clip. He was saying, just because you are from Choma, you were being beaten. There's no record of anyone who came from Choma and was being beaten merely by coming from Choma. And there is just this exaggeration of the cadreism that may have happened in PF. Because when we talk about cadreism then, I was at the University of Zambia during most of the PF times, and then we could use buses. When you go to Intercity, those people who were pulling people were not cadres, it was cowboys. So if there were anyone who was trying to grab bags and all that, that shouldn't be misconstrued into thinking that those were cadres. If there were cadres in markets who were harassing people, then those cadres were harassing bus drivers and because they were having control of the markets. Personally, I never directly experienced a cadre, but I had been using passes for a long time, but I never personally experienced a cadre come to me and say, hey, you, which party do you belong to? Because I never actually saw that happening. But there were certain instances here and there where people were reporting. But from the videos we are seeing now, where UPND is capable of producing certain content and frame it to belong to other people, definitely now I'm beginning to see that these schemes had been there even prior to 2021 elections. That's why it was so deliberate that there were certain instances where people would load bangers and they are in the regalia for PF. The same thing that's happening now where somebody goes and steals stuff and then they leave a cape for Tonzi. How can somebody really go with a cape for Tonzi and leave it there deliberately? Because it's the UPND themselves doing these schemes to try and tarnish the image of other people. So again, we have seen the worst kind of politics at the moment where the government is willing to do anything illegal and they will just justify it as imingalato. We never
In
used to
fact,
see these
Doc,
kind of things.
in your earlier analysis, you've referred to Ingwena, which they've been using. And you are very right, it's extremely offensive to the Bemba people. I don't know, the president doesn't want us to discuss tribalism, but he brings tribal politics into everything he says and does. Ingwena is a totem for us. A totem, ngamwabushe chisungu cha civics. A totem is a sacred animal or plant or natural object that serves as an object that serves as a spiritual emblem for a group of people or for a clan or for a tribe. For us, the crocodile is enigmatic to us. It's an emblem, it's a totem. And that's why you have a lot of Ngandu, Ngawasanga Ngandu na Ngandwe. These are the same names coming from Ingwena. Ingwena, because, you know, this is where we found when we crossed the Mulandu River all the way from the Congo going to many lands. And we found the crocodile lying just at Mulandu River banks. It was taken as a spiritual signal to the tribe that you've arrived. Stop wandering, make this home. And that is why, like you said, every time there is Ukusefia Pangwena, again it's the same thing. Ukusefia Pangwena is all about the crocodile, remembering that the crocodile was a symbol that said you now have arrived and you can settle. And in fact, the royal clan, you know, that rules the Bembas comes from that same, you know, totem, the Ngandu clan, you know, the crocodile clan. So it's very symbolistic to the Bembas. And this is, you pick something like this and scandalize it at every rally. And, you know, he says, Ingwena, while he's standing with Mao Sampa and Charity Katongo and other people from the PF. And it's sad for those that were even former ministers. And they are being laughed at. He's not laughing at who. You know, he's laughing at them. Yeah. But the Ingwena, it's like what you have just said. Imagine if anyone in Munduwile's camp began to use something associated with the cow. Because Kato, Ingombe, is associated with the Tonga. And you have to be very careful how you use it in politics. So if you picked something and said, Ingombe, immediately you will offend not the UPND, but you will offend the entire, maybe Tonga, Ila, and other tribes that keep cattle. So the president ought to be very, very sensitive. That is why this video has gone viral, this young lady telling the president to be careful with what he says, because a pattern has emerged and people can see through it. We'll go to the next paper, but let me remind you about this video.
So, ka spirit ka division wa boss wakakareke. Kaka division tuwasanga wale wakonde mwa tuwa kataka spirit ka division tawakareke. Even na waleti president wa Kenneth Kaunda na tampo tuma clip tumonto wale wakonde mwa kwa tu yumuntu kataka spirit ka division tawakareke. National land. There is no way ngabali kuri uyu mutundu ni one Zambia one nation. Ngabali kuri uyu mutundu ni remember those days when we were in opposition they used to beat you ngamulega mwafika be Lusaka pa intercity lishimwambo kuponokwa. So, is indirect telling those people to say you should not vote for these people because of this and that. And you are just dividing the country. So, our boss, can you kindly tell those people to come in front and testify publicly to say, yes, we were being beaten at Africa by intercity because of this and that. Elo tuwale imaifoku ya mkuvota. Ine ndimu ngoni mwapuididika. Pape pamushipati bampezeni. Ine ba dadi ni bapaya njere. Ine bo jere ine. Elo nafira kuli bamami ababemba bachanda. Elo nale imoku ya mkuvota. Takwada ma elders yanjiwe that, oh, uyu mutundu we don't associate, we don't mingle, so you should not vote for this man. No. I went there to vote for you and the entire family. We went to vote for you because twaishwa tumgeza tuteka bwino. Mwanza mku preaching a unit. Not knowing that makatako na keneka spiriti. Na kwali woku iminati uyu mutundu lefota vya mutundu wakwe. Uyu mutundu lefota noku teka techi muteke po. Na mwaku mutundu kukumye suku mlela ndakwati mle preaching a unity. Na mwaku mienu ni remember those days. Aba lepu mwani ba nani.
Errors, debt restructuring, the damage in the minds, law and order. Twali wambuloji. Mwalunga mujoma mwakwela basi weyakulusaga intercity guseruka buyombo woserukira ate basi ya wakujoma ate vimenye nivi batoka kuchoma hivi vimenye nivi ati tundu mwezi.
At this point in time, as I've said already, I've not come across a single man in politics who is today thinking of spreading Zambia. Apart from this is my head man in Zimbabwe. This is the southern province. What is it? He tried to do that, I think, but he didn't succeed. This what is.
Okay, so we.
No, I think he will finish that one.
Okay.
This is my southern province. What is he? The man is running his party.
Which one? Magande?
No. Oh, no.
He comes from Southern Province.
Southern Province, yes. This man, who is he?
Hakainde Hichilema.
Hakainde
Hichilema.
Hichilema.
Hakainde Hichilema.
Who running his
UPND?
UPND, that's right. Apart from that, there's no other leader I can fear to run this country. All these others who are running parties.
Doc, we go to the next paper. The Times of Zambia is talking about FRA opening the farming season and that is targeting 500,000 tons that should be bought. The maize floor price was announced earlier in the week by the Food Reserve Agency, and there's this huge announcement that FRA has begun to buy maize. The opposition leading candidate, Brian Mundubile, is saying if the farmers waited a little bit more, they can get a better price. This has become a campaign issue. But also, the farmers have had a raw deal in this government. Number one, the FISI program really was reduced to something we can't recognize. Some things were turned into loans. You know, many previous beneficiaries who didn't get, cooperatives were formed. There's just been chaos in the, in the farming sector. It's even a miracle that we're having good results, like a good bumper harvest. But it has been almost an average good bumper harvest since 2019, when we topped over 3 million tons. And, like 2021, we had up to 3.6 million metric tons. Last year, 3.650. There's a target that we may hit over 4.5 to 5 million metric tons. But what has been happening in the actual sector is chaos. farmers were not paid up to until, February, March, something that they had, brought their crops as early as July, and they could only get paid in February, March. What are your views about the farming sector and the issue of FRA buying maize?
So the issue of FRA, yesterday I received a very disturbing report that actually what the FRA has done is that they have told farmers to open accounts. They said the money will be received through the banks. So those people have to travel from wherever they are, and then they need to open those accounts, and that they need to also have certain funds, because if they don't have funds, then they are not going to get the notifications. So some farmers are complaining that already where they live, it's very far from those banks, and the banks require you to also have a deposit as soon as you open your account. So the farmers are complaining. They are saying they already don't have a good pricing for their commodity, and now there are all these things that are coming up. They have to use transport. They have to also put some money in the account. They have to open accounts. They have to photocopy things for them to open those accounts, and they have to buy phones for those who don't have. But when you look at all this, the government only added about 7 kwacha, or is it 2 kwacha, to the floor price. So when you look at that amount that was added, it doesn't suffice when you compare with the kind of expenses they're going to incur. Again, this is more political than trying to answer to the cries of the farmers, because we do know that had it not been an election yet, today farmers would have still gone through what they went through last year, where they had to be queuing up, waiting for their monies months after they supplied the FRA. Now, because this year, the government for some reason thinks they can fatten a cow in one night. You can't do it. I keep telling people that this is the same as somebody who has never studied for an exam, and then they are men with an hour in which they need to finish all the topics and go and pass an exam. It doesn't just work. We can learn this from Bwezani. Bwezani, just 3 months before the elections of 2011, he built all the roads we see in Kalingalinga, we go to Chawama, and all those roads surrounding Unza and other township roads. In Matero, he did a lot of roads in 90 days. But during this period, people understood that he could have done it all along, but he waited until it's election time. People don't buy what the government does during the campaign season. Even these additions they are doing, the payments they are making, nobody's counting them. People are looking at what has been done in the past 5 years. That's what matters the most. And the government should not think that Zambians are down. Zambians are very intelligent people. They don't forget. So they have gone through all these problems, and now the president comes, they are going to eat the money. They are going to get the things that they are giving them. But when that day comes, this is what causes a lot of shock. The way Bwezani was so shocked that how can I lose an election when I was doing everything right? Because he did not pay attention to the mood at that time. And we are seeing, unfortunately, the same trend. The president doesn't seem to be in the same country with everybody else. According to him, things are moving so smoothly. But we can see that behind that posture of having confidence, there is fear. We can tell by the way the president is making decisions at the moment. Every day there are new decisions. Contracts are being signed. The president jumping from one place to another, even doing revision rallies. It's the first time it's happening where the president can go to the same place more than 2 times just because he thinks the more he talks to them, the more they're going to vote for him. But he's so mistaken, because he had the entire time for these 5 years, the president would have gone to the same places more than once if he wanted. And he's the only one who was campaigning anyway. So to do it right now, at this time, even this FRA announcement, which is not even sufficing for the farmers, it doesn't really sit well with most of the farmers we've interacted with. And indeed, that's why people have decided, and they're saying Mundubile has proposed a higher price. Now, there are some people who are saying, hey, he doesn't understand economics. I read some economist, Ambassador, who said he thinks that these opponents are good politically, but not economically. Now, let's be factual here. A president doesn't need to be an economist. A president doesn't need to be an accountant or a lawyer. You just need to be an individual who is a Zambian who understands how to organize people, because Zambia itself has got people who already know everything in each particular field. We've got economists, we've got lawyers, we've got accountants. The president is not going to be doing those things. The president will merely be coordinating those things. So to come and say, oh, we need an account, that economist was trying to insinuate that the president is an economist, so the economy is supposed to be better than an economist. But when we look at the trend, this economist has shown us actually that he has performed poorly than people who never even did economics. Look at from Mwanawasa, who was a lawyer, and then we came to ECL for 10 years. The kwacha did not depreciate at the rate it depreciated under the economist. The hunger levels that we had then and the hunger levels we've experienced between 2021 and now, it's unprecedented. The load shedding. So all these things are showing that the word economist has got nothing to do with the performance of the president. So we can tell indeed from what is happening in the country that we are failing in so many sectors. And that's the reason why people have decided, and those farmers who may wait, they would want to take that gamble because they are able to see that, of course, if Mundwile comes into office and he gets those maize at that price, let's say it's 500, that's the government getting at that price. Now, people need to understand that even in developed countries, there is cushioning the government does for its citizens. Even in America, we even, if you are suffering, you are struggling, you're even given food vouchers, you're even given shelter. The government is able to provide those things. Even the Zambian government can take certain measures just to cushion its citizens. That is not going to affect the price of mealie meal because the government can buy at 500 and still sell the mealie meal at 120 because it's the government. They can put certain incentives, they put some money aside just to cushion that price. So Zambians should not fear that, no, if the government buys it at a higher price, then it is going to be the same with the mini meal, it is going to go up. No. Why is it that even when the government was buying at above 200, still the mini meal prices were still less than 100? It's because in one bag of 50 kg meal, we don't
Indeed,
produce
Doctor,
50
not to cut you
kg
short, but
mealie
just
meal.
to support you. You and I are here in the
Yeah.
United States, and there's been a big debate on local TV stations regarding farmers. Remember when the president put up tariffs, and then there were retaliatory tariffs from both Europe and China to counter the tariffs that the president had put up. The first people that suffered were farmers, big commercial farmers that were exporting to China and to Europe. Government has put up a huge bailout for the farmers so that there are no losses to the farmer. They've put up even market intervention mechanism, meaning that the government is buying the soya and other products that were being exported to China, because it has been a government policy that has made the farmer, suffer this loss of market because China then, imposed retaliatory tariffs and began to buy elsewhere. But the farmer was never left stranded. So I just wanted to support your position that government
You are very
can
right,
intervene.
Ambassador.
If, for example, they buy the 50 kg bag at 500 kwacha, President Hakainde Hichilema is promising at 347 kwacha, not very different from what it was last year. There's a fear, like, they said, the economists who said, but how will you deal with the price of mealie meal? It's very easy. How has the president dealt with the price of fuel from escalating? He has removed the taxes on imported fuel. There is, customs duty, that's something like 25%. There is VAT on fuel, that's about like 16%. Government has intervened by removing all those taxes, and the price of fuel at the moment is artificial because government has removed VAT, which is 16%, custom duty, and even some sales tax have also been removed from the fuel so that government can sell the fuel at a reflective lower prices. Government can intervene in the market as shown by these two examples. Continue. Sorry,
you
I
are
just
very
had to
right,
intervene.
Ambassador. You are very right, Ambassador. In fact, that brings to light the fact that if the government, for instance, buys the mealie meal or the maize at 500, and the government puts in those measures they are going to ensure that still the milling will be cheaper. We saw what used to happen under the PF, where the fuel prices were maintained below 20 because the government had put subsidies. That is possible. The government can do the same. What these guys came and do when they came is that they just came and removed the subsidies. They let the fuel prices skyrocket, but they are forgetting one thing, that when you increase the cost of production, that is exactly what raises the prices of the commodities. So if the cost of production is lowered, then we are going to see that even the prices of the milling meal and other commodities will go down. It's no wonder that everyone is asking that what kind of economy are we bragging about, that we have made it, when in the actual sense, things have gotten even worse. The prices are the prices of commodities are so high in Zambia. People are going through terrible, terrible situations in terms of hunger, and the socioeconomic status of most of the people has gone low. When you look at all those parameters, and yet the government keeps bragging that they have changed things from 2021, you tend to wonder, are they talking about changing their pockets, or are they talking about changing the livelihoods of the Zambian people? Because it is not an argument to make that they haven't improved their pockets from the time that they came into government. I can give you examples. We've got the former Minister of Mines. Take the photo of him from 2021 and look at his photo today. You can tell that the minister is now looking round, he's gained. You see most of the ministers, when you look at the way they were looking, even when you look at the former Minister of Information, the way he was looking in 2021 and how he's looking now, people are even becoming lighter, more smooth, because now they are becoming, you can see that they are eating well, they are living well, and they are living sedentary lifestyle. So this is the thing that we need to be careful about. When you are a leader, don't define the state of affairs using your home style state of affairs. If at home things have improved, don't generalize it to say that everyone else is doing better. I was talking to a certain gentleman yesterday who at one time was maintaining the roads, some township roads in Lusaka. He said from 2022, the cadres just came from UPND and said, hey, we are taking over these contracts. They took over the contracts. They accused him that he was PF. But from the time they took over those contracts, they have never done anything on the roads. And then, guess what? That guy had a lot of employees. So those employees are already out of business. They don't work. Even him, he was complaining that now he can't afford to make any money, because even the businesses that he has, he can't make money the way he used to before 2021. And yet we've got people bragging. Sometimes we wonder, these economists, when they come on board and start praising the government, no, the micro, the macro, it keeps me thinking. It reminds me of a time when I was in 5th year. Ambassador, I want to tell you one funny example. When I was in 5th year, we had a patient in the hospital who came, and then our consultant told the patient that you are doing very well. But this patient was limping. So the patient started arguing with the consultant, and we were students. We laughed a lot, We couldn't laugh directly, but we looked down, all of us, and started laughing because they started arguing. The patient was saying, I'm not feeling well. Look at the way I'm walking. And meanwhile, the consultant kept saying, you are doing very fine. We kept laughing. But who is supposed to know who is better? Is it you or the person who you are treating, who is supposed to say, yes, I now feel better? That's why we ask patients, how are you feeling? When you give them medication, when they come for review, you ask them certain questions, and then you do your physical exam. You prove that, yes, this person is indeed doing fine. You can't start arguing with the person whether they are feeling fine or not, because there are certain subjective feelings. There are certain subjective, signs or symptoms. The symptoms, you can't see them. The signs, you can see them. So for the symptoms, you ask them, and then the patient will tell you exactly the same. This government should be able to ask the people, how are they doing? And it's the people who are supposed to give them the feedback.
That's a very good analogy, Doctor. Because on one side, President Hakainde Hichilema is saying, look, the economy is doing very well. I've built up reserves up to $6.5 billion. The exchange rate has stabilized. The inflation rate is now a single digit. And it's the same story. Bill Clinton, questioned in the campaign in 1992, it's the economy stupid, because Americans were complaining Yet the government was saying, no, the economy is doing so well. We've never had such a number of good employment statistics. We've never done so well in terms of debt. But it's who feels it. Like the decision, like the analogy you've given between the doctor and the patient. Who should we listen to, or who should be given priority? The consultant insisting, according to his parameters, the patient was fine. But the patient insisting, I'm not well. This is a story of Zambians. They don't relate to these good things that the government is saying they have done. They can't see them. And so they're asking, is the economy stupid? Like Bill Clinton asked.
Yeah, and you see, this government has made it very difficult to be believed, because I'll give you another example, Ambassador. Just recently, the government produced statistics in terms of languages and how popularity had changed in certain languages. And there was a statistic that really touched me when they said now the number 2 most spoken language was Tonga. And then the number 1 was Bemba, then Tonga, then Nyanja. So again, when we came, some people called me and they were asking, like, these statistics, they are not different from the statistics that we are seeing about the economy, because about the economy, the government keeps saying the economy is doing fine, and the numbers are pointing to something else. When you look at also that statistic they gave, it was similar. When you look at how popular something is becoming, it should also translate on the ground. But what is the sample size we are using? Who are we asking? Where are we getting these figures from? So we have got a country which is being run through deceit. There is a lot of deception going on. If the government believes something is in a certain way, they will champion that and they will run with that narrative. Now that's dangerous, because this government has been running with the narrative that, for instance, PF stole money. And because they have been running with that narrative, they have made sure that every time they are talking, they say those thieves. These people are thieves. And they will talk about it every day, because they understand also that if a lie is told 1,000 times, it becomes the truth. Because people get so used listening to it, and then they start believing that maybe for sure it's true. But there is nothing to back anything like that. It's a pseudoscience. It can't even be backed by any evidence to say, 1, Zambia is doing fine. 2, there were some monies which were lost in the country. We've got thieves who were stealing money. Nothing of that sort. And yet the government keeps on championing this narrative. Again, the other problem that I've seen with this government is we are still talking about the FRA and the way they are handling things, but we can extrapolate with other things. The government is in the tendency of creating problems and then trying to solve them. It is a very simple political gimmick, which everyone who has studied political science should know. So, and when the president is asked about the things that are happening in the country, he somehow comes out with intentional ambiguity. He knows already that this is what is going on, but the president will even come out so unaware of what is really happening on the ground. But in essence, he knows everything. That is what shows that we are not being led by patriotic people. We should be very careful, not forgetting that ordinary Zambians don't eat numbers. Ordinary Zambians are not interested in graphs. When you are talking to Zambians want to see that tomato has become very cheap, carpenter is affordable, chicken is affordable, fish. Zambians should be able to eat their meals. Just by merely saying the economy and using big words doesn't help. In fact, Albert Einstein said that if you have to explain something and you can't explain it to a 5-year-old to make them understand, then you don't understand what you're talking about. I can't come here, Ambassador, and start explaining jargons, medical jargons to you. I'm just trying to show that I know certain things, but I may even be making mistakes in those jargons, but because you are not a medical doctor, you may not even understand them. And that is the thing that we see with so many people who don't have information. Many people have got little information, and this reminds me of Professor Goma. Professor Goma used to teach us that little information is more dangerous than no knowledge. Somebody who doesn't have knowledge is okay because they are not going to embark on anything. They will know I can't do it. But somebody with little knowledge is dangerous because they will still go ahead and do it, maybe Meanwhile, they will do it the wrong way. But those are the people who come up with big words. They will use big terms to confuse people, and people will be like, wow, what are they talking about? But that doesn't hold any water. We need to deal with real parameters, like what we are seeing the opposition are dealing with. When you look at the promises, for instance, like we mentioned yesterday, what the opposition are dealing with, he goes and says, look, you guys, the cost of fertilizer was so high. It's 1,200. Others were buying at 1,300. There's no way we can be buying your maize at 357. So I'm going to make sure I buy it at 500. You are giving practical solutions. You don't. The explanation of economic, micro or macro should be left in the offices. It's when people behind closed doors are discussing those things, just like behind closed doors, doctors will be discussing at a level of the cells what the medication is going to do. But when you are giving the medicine to someone, we just say, okay, I'm giving you this medication so that now we can reduce your temperature. But I'm not going to come and tell you, when I give you this medication, it is going to go to the hypothalamus, and in the hypothalamus, it is going to make sure that the production of prostaglandin E. You see, if I start talking like that, I'm just trying to show like I know more than you, but I may even be wrong. So we should not be buying into big terms. People who use big terms, it means they don't even know what they are doing, because you need to be able to get your information to the least educated person. And that least educated person is not going to understand micro and macro. What they will understand is milling meal is now cheaper. Now we have got, we are going to buy your maize at a higher price. Now the kwacha has appreciated, and because of that, the prices of commodities are going down. Fuel prices are going down. We are going to stop load shedding. That is what you talk about. Just like Michael said, I would say, we are going to put more money in your pockets. He didn't have to explain to the people the macro, the micro, the graphs, this bell-shaped graph will mean this. It's not necessary. So that is something also that we've seen. This government is so focused on semantics. They are not focused on reality on the ground. So they would rather champion a certain narrative. And of course, we'll always have people who will be clapping. Wow, he's so intelligent. Look at how he's talking. No, that's not intelligence. In fact, that is lack of knowledge. Sometimes you can even go and just pick up a word, and then you start using that word. You know that very few people know it.
We call it noise. In journalism, we call it noise, where people say a lot of things, but saying nothing is noise. We go to the second last newspaper, The Mast, is saying, prepare to hand over, that Hichilema is facing a crushing defeat. This is Dr. Richard Silumbe. He's a president and presidential candidate for the leadership movement. I think there is a debate that is a genuine wind of change in our country, and that our dear brother Brian Mundubile is at the verge of forming a new government that is at the verge of winning elections. I've been aware of many opinion polls that have been run. They are showing a close race. Some are showing that we might go for a rerun. Others are showing that there will be an outright win by Brian Mundubile. There are others that are also showing that Hichilema might win, and they are using various parameters. Like the other day, I was forced to publish what political parties have featured, because the UPND have run with the story that the NRPUP has not featured candidates in over 75 constituencies, and then they've had 15 unopposed seats. So I was forced to look for the statistics and subject that statistics to scrutiny, and it's not anywhere near the propaganda. But Brian Mundubile seems to be at the edge and verge of winning this election. Here, Dr. Richard Silumbe, who is president of the leadership movement, is saying that President Hakainde Hichilema should just prepare to hand over. What are your views about this matter?
So this is a very interesting topic. I've keenly followed it, and I've analyzed it in different scenarios. So you see, the wind of change is people are making is that in their analysis, they are being so myopic. They want to use the same parameters that were used in 2021 and 2011 to come up with a conclusion. But they are forgetting that so many things have changed. Let's start with 2011. You know, prior to 2011, cell phones and social media was not a very big issue, and the information flow was limited to the line of rail. That's why in the past, governments were hated and they were misunderstood, and people moved, they changed very fast along the line of rail. But when it came to villages and rural areas, people didn't get that information in time, because to get that information, people needed to either travel, and it used to take time for people to have substantial knowledge about the changes that are happening in town. That is number one. Number two, with the coming of the cell phones and the coming of the social media, which has become very popular, information is flowing very fast, because remember, now we've got a lot of schools in rural areas, so we've got teachers who are having phones. And we also have got nurses, doctors, and other health and other government workers who are in rural areas. And we've got children who are now going to colleges and universities coming from these rural areas, and they get this information very fast. So at the moment, the changes in the rural areas and the changes in urban areas are happening almost simultaneously. And you will see that you don't expect it to take as long as it used to take in the past, where Michael Sata would be winning all the towns and yet losing in rural areas. That's because at that time, people didn't have the same information in rural areas as compared to what the people in urban areas had. But at the moment, what is done today in Lusaka, you go and ask somebody in Shangombo, you go and ask somebody in Chozi, they know exactly what happened today at 10 hours in Lusaka. We are having this conversation right now. There are people in the deepest of rural areas who are listening. So parameters have changed. And that is what other people who want to lie to the president are telling him, that, look, it's not going to happen. Look at how long it took you. Look, that is very wrong, because I'll give you one example. People respond differently to different medications. When you give someone medicine, someone may even react to it, another person will not react to it. You give another person, they will get better very fast, another one will be slow. Others, their reactions are severe than in other people. Why am I saying so? Look, I want people to understand that the way Hakainde took 23 years to be president is not how everybody should be. And we should use examples of people like Chiluba. Chiluba had never been in opposition for even 5 years before he won against Keke, who was in power for 27 years. And you move from Chiluba, you come to Sata. Sata did not stay for 23 years. Edgar Lungu came and became president. He never even had been in opposition as a contender. Now we are having Mundubile, and you can see the trend. The trend is there. When Zambians are not happy, they unite and they do wonders. Ambassador, one thing I've come to realize about Zambians is that we are actually very wise people and intelligent. I've interacted with other people from other places, and when I meet people, they keep asking, where are you from? And when you tell them I'm from Zambia, everyone says, I've never met anyone from Zambia, and I've never met people like this. And when you ask again, you meet another Zambian, you can tell the difference. If you go on social media today, Zambians are more interactive than other countries. We have got people who've got, let's say, 100 million followers in America. Go on their pages, when they post something, there will be, let's say, 1K people reacting. But a Zambian who has got even 10,000 followers, when they go on Facebook, you will start finding 10K, 5K people have reacted. Look at the people who are watching Mundubile's rallies, and yet Mundubile doesn't even have 1 million followers. So in levels of interaction in Zambia are so high. So to lie to Zambians at this point is very difficult, because information is flowing very fast. So looking at all those things, you can conclude that indeed there is wind of change. And how we can also cement that thought is by looking at the response we are seeing. You know, when there is wind of change, the people are motivated. That's how you know that there's wind of change. And that motivation is what drives the people to follow that same leader they see is likely to form government. When Mundubile started, the first rally was in Kitwe. And this is very interesting, because when he had the rally in Kitwe, That rally, apparently, most of us thought that would be the biggest rally he would ever have. He had that rally, he came to Kabwe. From Kabwe, when he came now, he was about to go to Eastern Province. The UPND again played into Munduire's ball. The UPND thought that by coming up with a timetable, they were squeezing the opposition. But this played exactly into Munduire's ball, because if you look at the timetable Munduire had, Munduire may not have campaigned the way he has campaigned today without the ECZ timetable. He had made a timetable where he was going to go to Chipata, Lundazi, Petauke, then he was going to go to Chinsali, Makebi was going to be in Isoka. So they were not going to touch all the areas the way they have done. But when the UPND came up with that timetable through ECZ, and they said 5 days in one province, it forced Munduire in that 5 days he had to be in that province, and he had to do something in that province. Now look at the numbers that are following Munduire. When Munduire is at a rally, the rallies are not the same. There's no way you can have the same people in Petauke, you go to Nyimba, the same number of people, you go to Chipata, the same number of people. That's impossible, because these different districts have got different population sizes. But the UPND, when you look at when they went to Nyimba, the people in Nyimba were more than the people in Lusaka. When they went to people like, when they went to places, some rural areas, like yesterday they were in Mumbwa. When you look at the crowd that was in Mumbwa, compare with what was at Heroes, the one at Heroes was less. So are we trying to say that Lusaka has less people than Mumbwa? Or are we trying to say that Mazabuka has more people than Lusaka? This just tells you one thing. All those are cooked crowds. They transport people. So for the UPND, they are spending more money to put up a face. But for Munduire, people are going there genuinely. That's why you can see the crowd that was in Ikelengi is different from the crowd that was in Chingola and the one that was in Solwezi. And these are representative of the people. So like the crowd that was in Ikelengi may look small, but it was a lot according to that population. But when you look at Hakainde will go to Ikelengi, people will be as many as those in Kitwe. So does it mean everyone, including babies in Ikelengi, have gone to attend the rally? The answer is no. So we should see things for what they are. Munduile, wherever he's going, people are coming in numbers. And most of those people are coming, they don't even have regalia, because these are people who genuinely just want change. You see, not everyone wants to benefit directly from the government. Some people just want a conducive environment so that they can thrive. People are able to come up with their own agendas, their own businesses. But what this government has done is to kill that zeal from the people to come up with their own agendas. You need to align with the government for you to even thrive in any area. Because if you're not dealing with them, then they'll make sure they squeeze you. So that is one thing.
Indeed, Doc.
Yeah.
Who would have thought that Munduile would pull the crowds that they are pulling? They had one of the largest rallies in Solwezi, like the large crowd that was in Kasama. In fact, that forced Sishua to say Wanene goodbye, because people didn't expect that Brian Munduile would pull the crowds that he is in what is called the bedroom of the UPND. He went to Mwinilonga, again, large crowd. And then Ikelengi waited the whole day. And you can see that the rally was done in the night. And again, a mass crowd. Let me just read this. Someone says, give us a statistic of who stood where, because we've bought this lie that NRPUP and RP, the one that comes from Makebi Zulu, have not fielded in 75 constituencies. But what do the statistics from ECZ say? Because ECZ released the statistics just the other day.
Yeah.
So UPND, can you believe, in mayoral seats, NRPUP is featuring even more candidates, 24. UPND is featuring 20. Do you know why NRPUP is featuring more mayoral candidates? Because you have places like Ndola and Kitwe where you have two candidates that belong to the same alliance in Chingola. So NRPUP has got more mayoral candidates. The UPND have 20, NRPUP has 24. Of course, people have been advising Brian Mundubile and Makebi Zulu that they should resolve this issue so that they don't split the vote and benefit the UPND. Council chairperson, how many seats has UPND featured? 96. 96. How many features? How many has NRPUP and RP featured? 76. When it comes to parliamentary seats, UPND has featured 225 out of 226. We have to find out which constituency UPND have not featured. And NRPUP and RP have featured 190. So you can see a difference of only 35 seats difference. So the 75 seats is a lie, according to the statistics from ECZ. Of interest is Citizen
Ambassador,
First.
if I can just chip in on that one.
Yeah.
The thing is that, again, people should not be misled into thinking that this will affect the results of the election. Because remember that for a very long time, no one has actually been winning any parliamentary cities in the Zambezi region. The most people have won, even SATA, it was just Livingstone, and then you find that Mongu in Western Province, and there was also Masumba in Northwestern. The other parliamentarians were won by the UPND. So it really doesn't make much difference, even when you look at the numbers. These numbers, in certain places in Southern Province, it is even known that whenever you go and compete, it is the same people who are going to win who are coming from UPND. It's one reason why Gary Nkombo hasn't even gone ahead and endorsed Mundubile. You can see that if Gary Nkombo was to do that today, the majority may not even vote for him, because every place has got what is the stronghold, in what party has a stronghold in that area. So we can't really look at these numbers and think they will affect the presidential vote. The presidential vote, in fact, when you look at the UPND, they are split in their stronghold. In their stronghold in Southern Province, there are a lot of independents, and that's why they are fighting a lot. So these people are likely to actually have apathy. They may vote for the parliamentarian, but they won't vote for the president. Because again, these people are seeing what the president is doing to their candidates. And the president is the one who is championing all those problems that they are facing. So as a result, they may be thinking they have an advantage, but they actually have a disadvantage. And the opposition stand a very high chance. Mundubile will still be campaigned for by the independents, because he's the alternative. So wherever there's an independent, just the way it was in 2021, just know that that independent, even you look at their symbols, there is not much difference in their symbols, but people are just afraid to use the same symbols, because you know what this ECZ is capable of doing and what the government is capable of doing to them. So I just wanted to bring in that thought, Ambassador, that this won't still affect the results of the presidential election.
Doc, we are not a parliamentary democracy like the UK. We are a presidential democracy. You can have a president that can win with 5 seats, but become president. The country can vote for him. Our leaders are not born out of parliament. They are directly voted by our people. So you can have very few MPs, but still win the presidential vote. I think it buttresses your point. I wanted to go to Socialist Party and Citizen First numbers, but I think let's go to the next and last analysis that we have to provide. I'll combine it. NRPUP will bring back Panga, says HH. And News Diggers has also supported HH. Earlier yesterday, they ran this editorial where they made this broad and sweeping statement that PF, NRPUP are one and the same, and it's a clique of thieves who should never return to power. That's News Diggers. Give us your reflection. First of all, the PF, I mean the alliances. Let's start with the alliance. The Tonse Alliance that is run by Brian Mundubile has its own political parties, and it has the member political parties and member of the alliances, such as FDD and NRPUP and other political parties, provided and chose NRPUP as a special purpose vehicle. So to allege that this is PF, similarly, Makebi Zulu, if you look at where it's coming from Pamosi Alliance. Pamosi Alliance had a number of political parties and members of civil society, and they chose from Pamosi Alliance a special purpose vehicle called Resolute Party. So I think there's an attempt to depict that the alliance of Pamosi Alliance and Tonse is a coming together of two key PF officials. I think the only similarity is that these two served in the previous government. But if you see the number of people and teams that they've brought together, there are people that are far beyond the Patriotic Front. You even have citizens and elders like Akashamba Twambikustalewanika, who last served in government in 2007 under President Levi Patrick Mwanawasa. You have many people that have nothing to do. FDD, they've never been, with PF. Chifumu Banda was last as an MP, I think, for Chasefu under FDD. So to give them one brush stroke, because Brian Munduvile and Makebi Zulu come from the Patriotic Front, I think is not fair. I'm looking for a newspaper. I was challenging all of us that let's look for that newspaper when President Levi Mwanawasa challenged Hakainde Hichilema that he was UPND. I think that was 2004. And Hakainde Hichilema didn't want to appear tribal. He disowned, he said, in fact, the accusation, I'm a businessman, I'm not very open about politics. But if you are to know, I'm actually an MMD member, not a UPND member. So can we say that Hichilema is MMD? Of course not. And was Brian Munduvile and Makebi Zulu in the leading fort? They were actually even provincial ministers. They were not even cabinet ministers. To what extent do they carry the burden of PF? This is an attempt to give them one brush, because it's easier then to take back people to 2021 and remind them why they rejected the PF. It's a cheap shot that they're trying to do, both President Hakainde Hichilema and news diggers. Let me get your reflection.
So, Ambassador, to talk about this topic, that these are the same, PF and NRPUP, I will first give an example of the United States. In the United States, we've got two major parties, that is the Republicans and the Democrats. No matter what happens, they change between Democrats and Republicans. The only thing that changes are the leaders. You can have a bad president from the Democratic Party, and then they will lose an election to Republican. A Republican who becomes bad, they lose an election to a Democrat. What this means is that it doesn't really matter which party you are coming from. In Zambia, we had two major political parties prior to 2021, and that was UPND and PF. So it is just simple logic that if somebody didn't belong to UPND, they were likely to belong to PF. Now, merely belonging to UPND or PF doesn't make you the decision maker in that party. In fact, muchibemba tulandati isabi kubola liambila kumutwe. So the leader of an institution is the most important, especially in Zambia, because the president has got all the powers. So even if somebody belonged to a party and they were not a president, it doesn't take away their right to stand under a different political party. As a matter of fact, for 27 years, there was one political party which was a major one, which was UNIP. Meaning that even when MMD formed government, most of the people who joined MMD, they came from UNIP. But was it now about them coming from UNIP? No, it's because those people saw that there were certain things that were wrong which needed to be corrected. And they came out and they did something that they felt was better than UNIP. The same thing, President Michael Sata was in MMD. But Michael Sata decided to form another party after he was not happy with MMD. We can go on and on. I'll give an example of even the same Christianity we have today in Zambia. In the past, There was nothing like these Pentecostal churches we are seeing. There was no Protestants. And because there were no Protestants, when some people were not happy in the 1600s, 1700s, 1800s, they decided, oh, we are going to form our own churches. Did anyone say, oh, you were Catholics, so all of you are just Catholics? Oh, no, you were Orthodox, so all of you are just Orthodox? That is myopic. We can't be thinking like that. And again, this is the thing by the government where they are trying to play on the ignorance of some people. They are trying to use those people who don't want to think too much about certain things, to analyze matters, to woodwink them into thinking that we are dealing with the same individuals. Munda ni muchago. So you can have the same grouping, but different minds.
Oh, I hope I haven't lost him. I have lost Doc. It could be power failure or something.
Okay, sorry,
Oh, there
can
you
you
are.
get me
You're
now?
back.
Yes.
Yeah.
So nobody was born PF, nobody was born UPND, and nobody was born to belong to a certain political party or a certain tribe or a certain region or anything. What we find ourselves into, including our careers, is just by choice. Given Lubinda was once UPND, he still came and became a very senior member of PF. ECL was UPND, became a senior member of PF and even became president. So the past associations doesn't affect how you make decisions now. It is also wrong to blame the people who were just merely provincial ministers. And this is what people need to know. Makebi Zulu was provincial minister for Eastern Province. Look at Munduwire, he was provincial minister for Northern. These two people were very far from Lusaka. Even their offices were in those provinces. They were just implementing whatever was being discussed and policies which were being made, which they were supposed to do. And a good worker, a good civil servant, a good politician, or whenever you are holding any job in the government, any position, you are supposed to follow what you are supposed to do. And those people, they executed whatever they had to do to the best of their knowledge. There is nowhere where it is found that Makebi Zulu was corrupt where he was, or Munduwire was corrupt where he was. We can only judge them on what they were capable of doing directly under their office. We can point out, maybe if you found that there was something wrong with their management today. In fact, the UPND are the best when it comes to witch hunt. If there was anything about Makebi or Munduwire, we can't even be talking about it. They would have already been in court. They would even probably be in prison, because the UPND will arrest people for the simplest things that they do, even things that are not even there. They are able to manufacture as long as there is some semblance of crime. So if there was anything about Munduwire, today Munduwire would be in prison. If there was anything about Makebi, if you can survive under UPND as a politician all these 5 years without being arrested, it means that there is nothing literally that gave them any reason to come after you. So the UPND themselves have cleansed Munduwire and Makebi of any wrongdoing. Then when we come to the way they are trying to say there will be pangas, and these pangas are coming back. When you talk about pangas, and I'm marrying this with what the news digger said, you see, when you talk about pangas under PF, and you talk about the pictures and videos, I said earlier that I'm meant to believe now that there was a lot of stage managing of things. But at that time, people were unaware of those things. So they were just believing whatever they were being fed. When you look at these videos they are producing now, they are similar to the videos that were produced in 2021. Ambassador, there is a video that surfaced last week where it is alleged that some people who were clad in Atonsi Alliance t-shirts were saying, no, we are coming back. We are going to make sure we are now going to do it Pro-Max. We'll do it worse than it was. When you look at those videos, they're exactly the videos that surfaced even last time, where people were swimming in money. There were people who were standing, dancing on money, on beds. We saw those pictures and videos in 2021. And it's the same script that they are trying to use. That's why it's failing, because people are now tired of such lies. They have come to see things for what they are. UPND, PF, their time went. That time of rivalry is gone. Now they are with PF. UPND is with PF. In fact, it is very disheartening. I wonder, Ambassador, if you can manage, if it were you, to stand next to someone, you are the PF president, and this person is castigating PF and talking so bad about PF. Because that's what we see. PF is in bed with UPND, but then the same PF, they are there, they are leaders, they are standing with UPND, and UPND keeps castigating PF. But what they are doing is they are decampaigning themselves because everyone knows they are with PF. So every time they talk about PF, they are talking about their alliance partner. They are not talking about Tonse. So if they want to talk about Tonse, let them mention Tonse. They shouldn't say PF and Tonse are the same. No, we are in an alliance with PF, and you are with the president for PF. So where the president is, that's where PF is. Even that president is even speaking on their rallies. So all these things they are trying to use to tell people, it is just a way of trying to hoodwink people. And unsuspecting Zambians too, thinking that indeed PF is the same as Tonse. Now, the Pangas are not coming. This one is something that Mundubile has even mentioned several times. He has been talking about no Pangas. He has been talking about no cadres. And PF had the decency. Remember, President Lungu, even before his death, there was a time he was giving a press briefing. He said, yes, we were humans, we made certain mistakes. And one thing he mentioned was cadarism. And that's how a person is supposed to be. You should be able to acknowledge when you are wrong. If you are able to know you are wrong, then the prognosis is good. Again, it is like you are at Chainama, for instance. If you find a patient at Chainama who is unable to know that they are actually sick, they have got poor prognosis. But if a psychiatric patient has got awareness that they are actually sick, they are not saying you a doctor no world well, then it means that person has got good prognosis. So if you see a government that doesn't recognize its own weaknesses, there is no likelihood that that government will change. So such a government must be removed because they can never change. A government that recognizes its wrongs can change and you can retain them.
Indeed, Doc. In fact, in this election, it's a UPND that have perpetrated violence, from beating up Gary Nkombo to harassing independents. And the 5 deaths that have occurred are all associated with the UPND. 5 people have died in this election. We're just playing another video of an independent being attacked from Monze and from Mazabuka. We even have another one that we played from Kalomo. Mundubile challenged the president. Look at the attacks that have occurred to Mundubile's convoy in Chawama, now recently in Kitwe, and in Solwezi, all perpetrated by the UPND. So when they say they'll bring back the Panga, who will bring back the Panga other than the one who's practicing violence right now? Brad Mundubile challenged the President Hakainde Hichilema, that can you condemn the violence that is being perpetrated by your own members? We've lost lives, but you are quiet about it. And the president hasn't responded. Here is Brian.
Fyongo, Fiamma, politics. Kwakaputa, natukwata, munyine fo wafwile, bamwipaya, bakata badankusi. Balefo kutikisha, bakata, bapate Yesu, befishekala pisho. Mailo kulusaka basangile umulumendo ulungishe filimba nabamushile filimba cha kulungisha ndio mwina mukombola atila lishatumfwe efachilelila ambo kulisho lwimbo mundubile na makebi efe abanensu bayimine ukomuma no kumwipaya mukanyama na kufu abantu fo abanensu baleti fwe bakwete Fyongo ni fwe amalale twakwata iya namba 20 potwambila takulila ngubushiku na ngubumo ewo tukwete Fyongo ili twachilaiza twachanga wa UPND bale imapale njepali wachiboma twadile kuchinsali ba UPND ba bloko msebo twabekete moyo twakuchipata kuchipangali baisa pakati pa msebo twabekete moyo nishima natukwato mutende nchatala mtu wako bushiku na ngubumo umukala mba wandi munyina nechechi ashita condemn violence ndeko kumweba munyina pamfa ya mulumendo mchawama, pamfa ya mulumendo kwa kaputa, pamfa ya bantu kwa kanyama, ima webe chalo ukalipili abantu bobe ukutukula political violence nga chati noli wagulu wakaele munyina ne ngolu wakaele. Mr. President, ngolu wakaele, I want you to denounce violence. You should denounce political violence. Batu ishi byokuti muchishinga walipata olubuli. So kanshi mkwai iliyemio ifuile. Banabonse bafuile. Bantu banensu. Teofile. Ne ine 5 years wale tulia fina bopamu. Na wakwata abana. Mabina wakwata abe shikulu. Palape ne palupa pacha sani. Pafita. Teofile. Kanshi chile ingele okuti.
So, I think that was in Imporokoso when Mundubile issued that challenge to the president to condemn the violence, to acknowledge the people that have died. Instead of giving us the usual old story of Banda, Chipenzi, and others, and may their soul rest in eternal peace, he has refused to acknowledge the new deaths, and they've been occasioned by his own members. What are your views, Doc?
So, firstly, I'll start by acknowledging one thing that was in this video by Mundubile. You see, one thing about Mundubile that people need to pay attention to is his respect for Hakainde. Mundubile is not bitter. When he's talking, he is calling Hakainde my elder brother. He's calling him my brother several times. He calls him His Excellency. He calls him Mr. President. Now, that is very good because when you have a leader who understands that there's a distinction between enmity and politics, then you don't have a leader who is going to be vengeful. In fact, UPND should be lucky that it's Mundubile who is the major contender because Mundubile doesn't seem to be that leader who is going to be vengeful by the way he's carrying himself. Unlike Hakainde, who never even acknowledged that ECO was president. And when he spoke about ECL, he always spoke with bitterness. That's why even up to now, his supporters try to project together with him that other people are bitter because it's them who are bitter and they believe that whenever you don't agree with them, it means you hate them. Because in their world, there is no disagreement on principle. When you disagree with them, it is hate that is causing you to disagree. No wonder Hakainde said, "Why do you hate me?" He doesn't understand that you can actually disagree with him and not like his ideas. For him, when you don't agree with him, you hate him. So he should learn something from Mundubile. Mundubile is very respectful and very formal in his speech. He's sober-minded. You can tell the way he's talking. Unlike what has been said, when you compare the two, the way the president is campaigning and Mundubile, it's a contrast. Now, coming to the deaths, you know, Ambassador, what people need to understand is this. Today, I want to really put this on record. The deaths that occurred in PF during that time, those were accidents. Accidents happen when the police are executing their duties. Most of the time, even in the US, there are accidents that happen everywhere when people are handling guns. Just like under UPND, there has been instances where the police ended up firing and someone died. Even the ZNS, there was a child who was killed. But the UPND did not take those as such. They took it as intentional, people just shooting others. But let's compare that with what happened to Kungo. The death of Kungo was an intentional killing where the UPND intentionally goes with stones, stoning someone until the person dies. That was not a mistake. It was very intentional. They chased him. But when the police are being followed by huge crowds, sometimes some police become scared, others they just become trigger happy, and they end up shooting to protect themselves, and others just by mistake. But for whatever reason, it is happening in the line of duty. But were those UPND cadres in Solwezi in 2021 in the line of duty? The answer is no. They intentionally killed that person while they even knew that the person is going to die. They still did it anyway. So the president is hypocritical to even be going around talking about these names. It is even not right. When you learn from certain mistakes, you cannot continue using the same scenario. It's like trying to treat all the diseases using one medication. Somebody comes with malaria, you give them Panadol. Somebody comes with hypertension, you give them Panadol. You can't do that. The president used that rhetoric in 2021. Obviously, you should know by now that he's not going to use the same rhetoric in 2026. Unfortunately for him, he is still running around with the same narrative. They killed Kungo, they killed what. But look, have you seen Mundubile every day mentioning the names? In fact, Mundubile doesn't even mention the people's names. He would say, somebody died in Kaputa, somebody died. Him, the president right now is so bitter that he's able to mention the actual names because he is intentional. He wants his supporters to feel the hate and the pain. That's what he wants. Those are dangerous politics. Those are not very good politics. But we need to refrain from that. And the good thing is people are able to see that because that bitterness was not seen in 2021 until the president became president. Now we saw the bitterness in full force. That's how come we have seen how he has traumatized the Lungu family. He has traumatized them to a point where those people are even strong because what those people have gone through is unheard of. He goes and traumatizes other people like Bowman Lusambo. You talk about Chirangwa, you talk about Chitotela, and many more. People have been traumatized. Families have been, mistreated, and others broken because of the anger and hatred. Now, we are a Christian nation. We should run away from these kind of things. But this is a government, ambassador, which said the day of prayer was so useless and they would rather be doing something else. And they were not even trying to associate themselves with the word Christian nation. And they had their reasons. When you look at such a government, then you expect the West. No wonder, look at immorality. Today, when I look at the video that you posted yesterday, Ambassador, there's a video that was trending about the dancing, a gentleman and a lady who were dancing at their rally. When you see such things showing up, it tallies with what the president does in those rallies. The president is showing his back. In our culture, we are respectable people, and I doubt a father like him cannot be showing his back to the children. That is very disrespectful. But the president has insulted before. The president has called people names. Very insulting words have been used before in public rallies. So he has brought very bad politics. And if Zambia needs to reset itself and have the good moral uprightness, by the way, look at the people who are also campaigning for him. Some people are campaigning for him. They have a very bad record. But those are the same people who are so close and they are campaigning for the president. So when you look at all those parameters, indeed, saying we're a Christian nation cannot even suffice under this government. So we need a change of government for a fresh breath so that people can have a restart to their lives, and there should be change in the way the government operates, the way things are handled, the way matters are seen. At the moment, you can't even know what your child is watching on social media because those same people who are staunch supporters of the government, they go in public and dress, showing people their nakedness, and tomorrow they are with the president on the podium. So people start associating success with stupidity. So now they will be like, oh, as long as I can do anything that the government likes, it doesn't matter what I do. Even if I'm doing wrong things, as long as I'm supporting the government, everything will be turned into something right. So because of the way this government has been run, we have lost a lot of lives. We have lost the moral compass as a country, and we need a reset of these things. And we talk of Mundubile. Mundubile seems to come up with those solutions. When he's talking, you can tell that this is a man who is coming up with solutions, and is a man who is coming from a cultured background, and he's he's a symbol of the Zambian culture where people have got respect for each other, people, regard each other, and there are certain moral standards that we need to uphold, as it were.
Thank you, Doc. Let me bring in callers. Callers, if you have anything to say on the papers that we featured and our analysis, this is your time. Make the call so that we can close on top of the hour.
Then they're saying, no, we are not allowing HH and UPND to amend the constitution. The question is why? Because there are lacunas in there. Is it the first government to amend the constitution? No. Who else amended the constitution? In this manner, UNIP government. UNIP government. Bamuzungu is here. Bakurumpe. He was there. Institutional memory. UNIP amended the constitution. The argument is that why you amend the constitution now? So when is the right time? What does the constitution say? It's silent. UNIP amended the constitution in 1991. Limbina Mulava. In the election year. 1991, in the election year. People celebrated. 1996, MMD under President Chiluba, Aka Red Naka Black. May his soul rest in peace. Right? Yes, that man did a lot of things to turn the country from a wrong direction, in my view. I don't want to debate this. May his soul rest in peace. We don't appreciate a lot of things he did to move us downhill into a positive trajectory. 1996, the MMD and the FDJ amended the constitution in the election year. There was no problem, no street fights. Same organizations didn't go in the streets. By Kalafi Fidia Tondolo, and the constitution is being amended. No street fights. 2016, under PF, the constitution was amended. Right? Election year. In January, the election was in August. They amended the constitution. No one went in the streets. We were aggrieved as UPND. And I told my members, no one goes in the streets. Let's vote in parliament. We voted and lost in parliament. I never allowed our members to go in the streets. UPND, this man they don't like, for whatever reason. Right? You know, this level of hatred is shocking. Right? You can see that there's venom here. You can even touch it. There's venom here. We go to amend the constitution using the same law, using the same constitution, which was applied, clauses which were used before. It says, no, we don't want. The timing is wrong. But what about those other timings when it was amended? What was right? Why didn't you go in the streets? Ask yourselves a question. So you want to start conflict over nothing.
We have our first caller. Caller, please tell us your name and where you're calling us from and make your contribution.
Good morning, Ambassador, and good morning, Doc. Unfortunately, because I work for a government institution, I will keep my name anonymous.
You are welcome.
But, thank you. Allow me to make my contribution. And overall, Doc has highlighted most of the points that I wanted to highlight. Number one for me is that before I even get to the campaign and where we are, the greatest threat that I see in the UPND and our president is the disregard of the constitution and regulations and interference of government institutions. You know, you can talk about anything else and it can be fixed. You can talk about the economy and the livelihoods of people, and that can be fixed. But when you have a government and the leadership that deliberately disregards the constitution, court orders, and any other regulations, that is the highest threat that the UPND poses for me. And we can cite examples. The sale of the 2 mines, you know, the Kabushi and Kwacha by-elections. We can go on and on, where this government has totally disregarded what the rule of law says, what the court says, and goes ahead to do exactly what they want without even thinking twice about it. Recently, the constitutional amendment process, you see that. So for me, that is the greatest threat. Now, coming to the topic under discussion, the comparison of the 2 boys and the PF. Well, let's look at the 2 sides, as Doc has said. The 2 boys have held a number of campaigns, and we have not seen violence perpetrated, except those that seem staged by those that might sympathize and align with the UPND. And so for me, just by that, we need to come together as a country and and make sure come August 13, we remove this government from office.
Thank you. Please tell us your name and where you're calling us from and make your contribution.
Hello, Mwamba Mwashibukeni.
Endita.
Thank you so much. Well, Mwamba, I think we are even addicted. We are not sleeping. It's very hard to sleep because we are just counting days. I just want to comment tribalism. Bamwamba, the reason why I'm saying that I would like to comment on tribalism because I have seen these tribal marks that are repeatedly pronounced more by our Kateka Vesu. All I know is that the leader should try and unite its people under what circumstances, Bamwamba. You know, we should never, ever talk about tribalism. We should not even forget that tribalism caused something very bad to our nation. You know, if you look at what had happened to Rwanda, even though it was the ethnic groups, those people at themselves, it was because of the differences that they had between themselves. And yet, those people spoke the same language. Yeah. Tribalism is very sensitive and it should never be practiced. We are one people. Zambia is blessed just because of its 72 distinctive indigenous tribes. And the motto, one Zambia, one nation, did not just come up. Let's teach children that we are Zambians and we are not Bembas, we are not Lozis, and whatever. A footprint. What do I mean by a footprint? You know, I'm appealing to all our leaders. Gabaisa pabuteko, vale mone fintu, efyo vale vika, muteko bwabo. You know, I know that what took or what killed PF, it was because of cadalism, okay? You cannot come back and I'm sorry, what I did was bad. That's not a good thing. And footprint, and people will be reminded by that footprint. Therefore, I'm trying to appeal and to beg footprints footprints
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, caller, please tell us your name and where you're calling us from and make your contribution. Anonymous, make your contribution.
Within Lusaka. I just want to contribute also on the part of this cycle in tribalism. I think Zambia can do better because Zambia initially under Kenneth Kaunda, but to stay united with the motto one Zambia, one nation. But that is not in existence as of now, of what we are seeing. So we are heading in a very troubled times if you're not careful with this sentiments which are being made. So as I'm speaking right now, na manako na utuntu mutauni these new recruits never recruit police during my elections. All those things are very bad. It's just signaling commotion and more problems for us. You can see that these elections won't be fair. If you want to use state institutions to start nanikani, that's my contribution. I submit.
Thank you very much, my brother. Arrow caller, please tell us your name and where you're calling us from and make your contribution.
Good Ambassador Mamba, good morning.
Good morning.
I just want to talk about the issue of tribal and the regionalism. I want to take you back after President Chiluba decided to pick the elected President Mwanawasa as a presidential candidate in 2001. And the President Mwanawasa won the election. I think Ambassador have got a very big memory when the President Mwanawasa launched the crusade against corruption. And the major culprits whom back into the picture, it was the late President Chiluba. They went to the parliament, the immediate was removed. And there was a very big storm where headline were hits, Bembas are corrupt, thieves, and other things. These are the things we need to tell our children to know that when these things came into the public domain, President Mwanawasa received a very big backlash where he realized that the popularity of MMD and the leadership was going down. Now, the beauty, why I'm bringing these things, the beauty of President Mwanawasa, adequate courage, when he realized that some people very much time misled, and some of them are still with President Hakainde Hichilema, and they wanted to replicate or to do it again the way President Mwanawasa was misread. Even HH, I think also Alisa ride on that is environment or ideology or something else, where he wanted to bunch a certain groupings, a certain individuals that are criminals. They were just stealing and greed. But the beauty of Mwanawasa, he started inviting elders and the people from MMD and from different walks of life to find out what is the problem. And I'll mention some of these people who told President Mwanawasa in his face, and I was present. One of them was the late Mike Mulongoti, and the others. The Michael Mulongoti told, he says, Vamwisho, the issue which is here, there is a certain society or a certain groupings, prosecute. And these people, they don't feel very good. And that's why you have received a backlash. Oh, are you telling me yes? President Mwanawasa started sending people going to different areas, in markets, in business to get information. If you recall, Mwamba, towards the 2005 to 2006 election, Mwanawasa toned down and changed. That's what the things saved MMD into that election. And the challenge we have got, the same people, those are the agents of the devil. If you remember, she was a part of the, I don't know if she was the deputy speaker. I don't know, you can correct me. She was part of them. Sylvia Masebo was part of them. There are a lot of people there who are there who are pushing a certain very bad agenda. And this is what we are seeing. What we are seeing from HH, it's a replication from whatever Mwanawasa was misread. That's why HH is trying to use that to, kubika urupato. Kuba munine abaku southern province, western province, northwestern, and other people, so that balaban tute basuma. Now, another thing, He's talking about Bafumine PF, just as Dr. Sampers talks about. When talks about Arthur Wiener, Scott Wiener, Humphrey Mlemba, Emmanuel Kasonde, and others, all of them came from UNIP and they were a pioneer of MMD. Just for a time's sake, look about today. Who is the Minister of Finance in President Hakainde Hichilema? It's Honorable Stumbeko Msokotwane. Who was the Minister of Finance for Rupia Banda? It was the same. Where was the Sofia Maseo, MMD, Mutati, MMD, Never Sumba, MMD? You can mention when people rejected MMD in 2011. Where was those people? So, therefore, Chava, I'm a politics. It's like you are running a football team. When the football team is not doing fine, you don't disband. You even fired all the players. To change off a coach. You talk about Manchester United, Manchester City, Chelsea, Arsenal, Barcelona, Real Madrid. If the team is performing very badly, the person who has failed to improve that team is the coach. And you have seen some of the teams, immediately you change the coach and you bring a new coach, some of the teams started even winning the trophies, started performing very well. So in this case, if PF were not performing very well, then the coach was not doing very well. We cannot, that ideology doesn't work like that. Apart from Chiriapa, people should give chance to Brian Munduvile and Makebi Zulu.
Thank you very much, caller. Thank you very much, caller. I have so many calls. Let me just see how many we can take. Thank you for your contribution. Hello, caller, please tell us your name and where you are calling us from. Hello, caller, please tell us your name and where you are calling us from and make your contribution.
This is Anonymous, just from within the AI.
Anonymous, make your contribution.
So I just want to contribute on this issue of tribalism. I think this thing has already penetrated, and we really need to be serious about it, because I'm already seeing it in the institutions of government. I have friends, a lot of colleagues from the other side, and the way they talk about things about the other region, you will really be surprised. Even the comments that they put on social media, you can see that this thing has already penetrated, of course, through the big man himself. And again, this time around, what we are seeing from the list of names that are being released by the Electoral Commission of Zambia, they're just releasing the NRCs. What does that mean and what does that tell you? I would like maybe Doc to respond to that, because I foresee a future where even the recruitment, you will not be able to see the actual name, the first name and the surname. You will only be able to see the NRC. But again, what is behind that NRC? I think Doc can also help to maybe to respond to that, because yesterday I saw something from these councils, those guys that will be involved in the elections, that will participate. They're just releasing the NRCs. What does that mean? What does that tell you? Thank you, Ambassador.
Thank you very much. There are so many calls. Wow, the other speakers were if I can take two more calls and we quickly ask Doc and we close for the day. It's what the paper say. Quickly make the call. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from and make your contribution.
Good morning, Ambassador.
Good morning.
I'm James from Dola. So I want to contribute or to add a word to what is prevailing in the country. This issue of tribalism, I think, as someone said, it started some years around that time this man was mentioning. I think during the time of our former president, President Chiluba, and these people have been running with narratives of hating other people based on those things. But the truth of the matter is that there is more safety now than there was theft. There is more corruption than there was corruption. There is more violence now than there were. So I think the best way to the Zambians can reject this is when we go for 13th, let's vote against this nonsense. We are tired of suffering in our own country. We are seeing what Traore in Burkina Faso is doing. That shows you that as Zambians, we can also replicate what we are seeing there. Not whereby a few people, a few clever people are making money out of our lives. Look at Chifungana. The man sits on depots of minerals. The whole Kitwe, the whole Lufanyama is built, the whole Kajam and all those mines are built in his kingdom. But you look at the king living in squalor, living in poverty. What are we trying to do to us? Look at our friends in Dubai. Those people, when they discovered oil, they said, what should we do after oil has finished? They decided to put up infrastructure for tourism. Today, Dubai is supported by tourism. So why can't we do something as a country? And I know BM, our president, our incoming president, is very categorical on this issue. Let us empower our local people in order for us to start mining our own minerals. If anything, they should suspend the issuance of licenses to foreign investors and issue them to local people, and then they can partner with those outsiders. We have seen this issue. This government, we have seen it. It's just giving everything to foreigners. It's giving out to foreigners, including taxes. Therefore, giving taxes to foreigners. What is the motivation? And then when it comes to this election, I know there are people that are being used, and the example of what happened yesterday, I was following a program where the former commissioner for Copperbelt was arrested. That shows those people that are being used by this government, they should be aware that the same thing can happen to them tomorrow. So I think it's important that when we go to vote, let's go and vote with emotions. The things that we are going through as a country, this problem that this government has created is affecting everyone in this country. It doesn't matter whether you are in Southern Province, you are in Northwestern, you are in Lopula. The problems that we have in this country, they are affecting everyone. It's like Ambassador, this country is under siege. We don't know what this government has done to the money. We don't know what this government has done with the economy. It's like the situation in Samaria, where wicked kings, put that country on siege. Despite things being there, people starved to the extent of trying to eat their own children. This situation is leading us to a very destructive outcome if we do not move this government. But I think God loves us. People came up with the NRPUP and the symbol of a lamp. That is a very prophetic thing. Let's not allow darkness to quench the light. I submit to Ambassador.
Thank you very much. I'll take the last caller and we close for the day. I'll invite Doc to make his last remarks. I'll take the last caller and then I'll ask Doc, we close for the day. Doc, let me invite you. You make your last remarks, then we close for the day. Oh, I can see Doc has left. He hasn't left really. He's having intermittent power failure in their area. I noticed that there have been storms where he is. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you're calling us from and make your contribution.
Hello, good evening, Ambassador.
Good evening. Please make your contribution.
Oh, good morning. Yeah, we are used to even. This is Movita from Kafiwa.
Yes, Movita.
I would also just want to contribute on the headlines where you say the PF and the Itonse are just one. To start with, the ambassador, we have seen that how the PF, we have seen that how the judges handled the issue of the PF. They gave the PF to Mao Sam, and the Mao Samba is with the UPND. So there's no way they can say PF is with the Tonse. PF is with the UPND themselves. Then, secondly, there is literally no much harm that PF did. But when you come to the UPND, this country is divided. There's a lot of hate in this country. There's a lot of hate even in the parliament there. So you can see that we need really leaders who are going to unite this country. And this is only through NRPUP. So that is my humble contribution which I can make. The country is really polarized. It's divided. There's a lot of hate in this country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hello, caller, please tell us your name and where you're calling us from and make your contribution.
Ambassador Mwauka Bwanji.
Tauka Mwauka Bwanji naimwe.
Okabwino Mama Kendra calling within Lusaka.
Make your contribution, Mama.
Yes, nkamba konkani ama NRC kaise timatuma kona ku radio. So hapa na nizokipa na mvelako imwe naendako ku radio, na mvelako imwe naendako ku radio. Ba ambassador nkani ama NRC ba UPND kuliwina ngwa chitokambira kuti ise timapita do to timatenga ma NRC. Sitenga chabe ku bantu bali wonse making sure kuti uyuni wa UPND. Then tikatenga timapasa something noti kutenga chabe chifuka tifuna kuziva kuti aba bantu zona vazakavhota or vasavhota. So venangu venzokamba kuti vamene venzochitandani vauswa kuti nga ivi vintu mukamba timuenda mukutenga tenga chabe mwatenga ma-NRC vimininga chani ati aitifuna kuti tizivane kuti zona munhu asakavhota then tikatenga tapita tizivana kuti hapani so much. So ise tikambiratu kuti ma-elections aya tinawina kudala chifuka tiziva tawini wake pamene tiendera tipita titenga ma-details yonse tatenga vonse tachita bwanji taenda noenda ndemwe tichitira so that olo mabhanji yavitenge yakabwera tiendo vapasa tavapasa tiziva tipaja pali vaso. That's why tawini yake timakamba nokamba kuti tinawina kudala ma-elections. So that's why nati nikambepo so that vadoku vatiziviseko kuti vimininga chani vamene vachita va UPND ndevamene zofuna kukamba ku ambassador because vankalisa kuti apa ini corruption yamene vachita nankhala nayo okay nankhala nayo wali that's why nakufunza va ambassador.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Doc, I'll invite you to respond to the callers and make your last remarks.
So much of the callers were talking about tribalism. Now, I want to go back to 2021 on 8th of November 2021. You know, President Hakainde Hichilema came from Scotland. He was attending the COP26 climate conference. So when he was asked about tribalism, I want to read exactly what he said because this is very important and I want people to understand. I will read his statement. He said, I call them a clique of thieves because they have been feeding off public resources from independence and they don't think that someone else other than their people can run a country in a better way to redistribute jobs, to redistribute resources. This is what a callous mind does, and it doesn't bother me a lot at all. This country was divided in the last 10 years. Cabinet came from only 4 provinces. 95% of cabinet came from 4 provinces. Today, the cabinet comes from 10 provinces. You should be proud of that. This clique of thieves statement went viral. I'm sure, Ambassador, you also remember it. So
yes.
This clique of thieves, when he said this, and when you listen to this statement, which I read from News Diggers, this statement was not talking about the PF. It was talking about people who have been ruling from independence. up to the time the president became the president in 2021. So ask yourself, in Zambia, when you talk about the geography of Zambia, Zambia has got the majority tribes, the majority language, and most of the majority, like in Zambia, the majority you find it's Bemba speaking people. The Bemba speaking people include the Namwangas and other people. Then we have got the Tongas are about 13%, but the Bembas are in the 40%. So it is just simple logic to think that during that time, because people were considering Kaunda as being Bemba, but they didn't realize that Kaunda came from Malawi. And even when you look at the names of KK's siblings, there were Kawechi and others, those are not Bemba names. So Kaunda was not Bemba, even if they settled in Chinsali. So the president said this clique has been ruling from the time that from the time of independence, and they are thieves. So indeed, this issue of tribalism has become more pronounced. The president started it and he amplified it by trying to cluster people. He stereotyped Zambians into thinking that there are certain tribes who think they are superior than other people, that there are certain tribes who think that they are the only ones who can rule. Before the president became a leader of our country, there was no leader before who mentioned that statement before. And what we need to understand is this. As a president, whatever you say matters a lot, and it means a lot to the people who are listening. So if you start making statements dangerous like those, to think that there is a group of people who think that they deserve to be leaders, then it means you also don't even understand history. Because when you look at the cabinet for KK, it didn't have a lot of Bembas. There were very few Bembas in that cabinet. It was very balanced with a lot of Lozis and other people. Even when you come and look at the cabinet for Chiluba, you look at even the top two for Chiluba. How many vice presidents did Chiluba have? And how many of those were Bembas? None at all. When you look at the people, even him, Hakainde is a beneficiary of Chiluba's government. Today, how can somebody who just graduated from UNZA, all of a sudden, an economist makes millions? How can you make such millions when you've got a lot of poor economists all of a sudden? Where did the capital come from? It's because of the same benefit that he got from the privatization. Now, if that government was so tribal, why did they allow somebody who was from another tribe to even make such huge sums of money from them? So we need to be very honest with each other. The problem is that when you are tribal yourself, you start projecting on other people. The governments that came, successful governments, were never really tribal. Let's look at PF, for instance. When you look at PF, the person who was the spokesperson for the police, he continued as the spokesperson because that same spokesperson came from another region. The IG was not from the same region as the president. In fact, the president was from Eastern Province. The vice president was from Western Province. When you look at the IG, was from Northwestern Province. You go down, most of the people were occupying positions. It was just a normal way of, there is equity. And when you are talking about equity, you are talking about distribution of resources in an equitable manner. So, meaning that if you've got, let's say, the way it is in Zambia, the majority may always seem like they are taking too many positions, but not because they are actually. It's because they are the majority. And that is not even the case. That was not even the case under Edgar Lungu. Under Edgar Lungu, he tried his best to make sure that he balanced as a human. Even Mwanawasa tried to balance. When you go to Chiluba, he also did the same. But when you look at this government, just yesterday, when you look at the police officers who were transferred, those three, all of them, they were coming from the same region. You look at the commissioners for the police, the entire commission, all the commissioners, they are coming from the same region. Go to PSMD today. It's the same thing. You go to ministries, including secretaries, it's the same thing. There is a lot of tribalism and people are justified to condemn it. We can't continue thinking that this is a very good vice. Tribalism is bad. Everyone should condemn it. Look at the composition of the Tonse. The Tonse has got Mbiko Staliwanika. They have got the chairperson who is Scotta. And then we've got other people from different regions. They are all part of the Tonse. Under UPND, do you know, Ambassador, that when you go, for instance, you go to Chinsali, you find that the ward chairman is somebody who is from the same Zambezi region, but they had to fetch for someone who is from the Zambezi region. Look, when you go to Copper Belt, you go and look at the structures. Again, you find the same thing. Why, when you go to an area, get people from those areas and let them be the representatives of your party, if your party indeed represents every Zambian. But the UPND always tries to find people in the same area who are coming from their own region. And that regionalization of Zambia is the one that has really made UPND unpopular. They are very unpopular because Zambians don't buy that, including people from the same regions. They refuse. They say, we don't appreciate this because we've got friends, we've got family, people have intermarried. So tribalism cannot be championed at this time. It's too late for the president and his people to be championing this because even Southern Province, the elections this year will show a different picture. There are a lot of people we've talked to before from Southern Province and they're saying something different because they are not tribal people. It is the politicians who are trying to make other people seem tribal. But the people themselves from Southern Province, Northwestern, Western, they're not tribal people. That's why you saw how they received Mundubile. You will see how they are going to receive Mundubile in Southern. It will shock them. And that's why the president was not happy. There's that audio that surfaced where he called someone that, why are you planning to receive Edgar Lungu and give him some keto in 2021? Because those people didn't look at Edgar Lungu using a tribal lens. Them, they just looked at him as somebody they would support. But the president, even from that time, he was still being tribal, looking at things like it was about them versus us. So this tribal thing is not going to work in Zambia. Zambians are very united. And when Zambians see that something is wrong, they always fight and they make sure they correct things. The same way they did in 1991, they will still do it this time around. That's why we've seen the kind of energy that we are seeing from the voters. Now,
before you go to
thing,
the, I found your video. Let's play it.
56 constituencies. They are the owners of the money. We intend over years to gravitate more money from the center into the localities. That is the difference we bring to the table. And you will see the effect, the positive effect of that in 2-3 years. Then we shall see those who believe what they are believing now. We shall see who is right.
Thank you very much.
No, allow them. I've been away for a long time. Just allow them.
But sir, let's bring your attention also to issues back home. There are pending appointments, those of permanent secretaries, pending appointments, those of permanent secretaries as well as police commissioners. I would like to find out when exactly you intend to do that. And also, your government has been accused by some opposition leaders that the reinstatements that are happening on tribal lines as well as regional. Yes.
You have to be careful when you ask questions of ethnicity. First, you must start from the premise that all Zambians are entitled to jobs. First. And we must not make an issue because that's a human right. You are entitled to be a journalist. That's why you're a journalist. Are you a tribalist because you're a journalist in Diamond? You're not. That's mischief by the tribalists, the hegemonists, who did not want this country to be run by anyone else other than a clique of thieves like them. And I call them a clique of thieves because they've been feeding off public resources from independence. And I don't think that someone else, other people can run a country in a better way to redistribute jobs, to redistribute resources. This is what a colossal mind does. And it doesn't bother me a lot.
That was the most controversial statement. It went viral, like you said, because he said the country has been run by a clique of thieves since 1964. And I thought I could just quickly, with this software, we can draw something immediately from YouTube or anywhere and play it. But complete your thought.
Yeah, so I appreciate, Ambassador, that you had to even pull it up because, you see, people need to not forget where we are coming from. And whatever we are seeing now was a build-up from 2021. So the president was able to galvanize that kind of tribal talk and trying to make people think that indeed there is a group that feels entitled. And you saw that in his preceding press briefings, he started talking about why he was hated by some people. So the president was already insinuating that there's a region or a group of people who believe that he can be a president. And that is where the problem was. And we are seeing this happening now because his members think that it's their time. They don't think it's time for Zambians to enjoy. They think there is a certain group that was enjoying for the past 40, 50 years, and now it's their time to enjoy. That's why there is a lot of division in the country. We can't continue in this trajectory. That's why Zambians need to come in numbers on 13th August and remove this government, because I can assure you that after 13th August, if this government is not removed, this will only intensify and the political persecutions will be worse. Gary Nkombo, if it's Gary Nkombo, Mundubire, and all these prominent politicians, I can assure you, they won't survive after 13th August if this government was to win. Because this government has shown us that it's either them or you are on your own. And when they say you are on your own, it means they are on you. They are never saying you are on your own because they will let you alone. No, no. You are on your own to them means they will be on you until they finish you. So tribalism must be condemned, and this government must go with its tribalism. Now we come to disregard of the rule of law. The first caller had mentioned this important point. He said, these other things like cadarism and other things, you can end them because all you need is a good policy and you strengthen the institutions of governance. But when it comes to disregard of the rule of law, you are disregarding the same thing that is supposed to put the guidelines which you should follow, and these which are supposed to be guardrails for you, what you can and what you can't. Now, if you have a government that doesn't respect the constitution, like what we have seen, the rampant abrogation of the law, where even criminal cases are now being settled out of court, where there is, application of the law which is so selective, this simply means that it is beyond redemption. The only way you can handle a person who is like that is remove them from those offices of power, because they will do anything to manipulate the law to their own advantage. This constitution, which was passed just weeks before the elections, this constitution has brought more problems, because when you look at some things, even up to now, we don't even know what will happen to the candidates whose running mates withdrew. And one thing I want to bring to your attention, Ambassador, is the fact that the previous constitution, the reason why they put those guardrails to say if someone withdraws, you have fresh nominations, because they wanted pure democracy where people were supposed to be given the same chances that they had prior to someone withdrawing or someone dying. So if you remove that and then you say, now people have to choose from the remaining, then you are denying the others who would have loved to go with the policies of that other party, which will no longer be participating in the elections. But that's what happens when you are just focused on one thing, because what you want is, even when you buy an MP, there will be no by-election, because you've already bought them and there will be no by-election. They will just move to your side. So there are a lot of things which have been done, which we are yet to discover when we read in totality this constitution, because this government doesn't really mean well to the Zambian people. But the good thing is that Zambians have got a chance on 13th August to change the government. Then we've got another caller who talked about NRCs and the collection of NRCs. I'll advise you, Mama Kwabati, make sure when those people come, record them. We need evidence, because we have a government which can refuse in front of the camera that nothing happened. Find a way to record those people. Keep that evidence. Time for reckoning will surely come one day. It doesn't matter how long it takes, but we need to be keeping record of this. But more so, don't give them your NRCs. Why would you want to sell your NRC over whatever cheap money they are giving people or whatever materials they are giving, when you suffered the entire 4 or 5 years without electricity, with a high cost of living and all these other things? You cannot compare that to whatever they are giving people today. So please avoid giving them and keep these records so that they can be used in future. The other thing that I think the other caller also talked about collection of NRCs. So I'll say the same to them. And one thing I also want to highlight here to the listeners is that there is what we call splitting in psychology. Splitting is where somebody deals with things in all or none fashion. So that is what we've seen happening so much with the UPND. If today Ambassador Mwamba was to say, I am joining UPND, then they will say you are the best person ever. They will say all the good things about you. But immediately you are critical of them, again they will say all the bad things about you. Now such people are dangerous because they don't analyze fully and holistically. So for them, that's why right now they are dealing with the West people who they are fighting at the same time. They are saying they're fighting PF, but they are with PF. But because those people who are with them are PF, they are saying these are the good PF. The bad PF is the one that has remained. If the entire bad PF they are calling today was to join them, they will change again. They will say they are all good PF. So Zambians are able to see past this splitting that they are doing, and they can't be cheated anymore. And come August 13th, I'm urging Zambians not to relent because the future is in your hands. And it's only you who is going to redeem Zambia from this path of doom that it's embarking on. I think that's all I can say for now.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you, Doc. I have a persistent caller. He probably has something to say. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you're calling us from and make your contribution.
Ambassador, I will remain anonymous.
Yes, anonymous.
I'm calling you from Lusaka.
Thank you. Make your contribution.
You see the clip that you played regarding the president and him talking about a clique of thieves. I want to highlight certain things.
Yeah.
I want to highlight certain things that during the one-party state, if you remember correctly, the most people who were heads of government, the prime minister, were actually Mainza Chona. He was from Southern Province.
Uh-oh, have we lost him? Hello? He has tried so much, and I thought I could give him an opportunity. Oh, my brother, you've muted yourself. You have muted yourself.
Okay, sorry, Ambassador, sorry.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is that I'm making a follow-up on the clip that you played when the president talks about a clique of thieves since independence.
Yeah.
If you recall correctly, at the time during the one-party state,
yeah,
the prime minister was head of government. And if you can still remember correctly, Comrade Mainza Chona was prime minister. He was from Southern Province. He was not Bemba. And if you can remember correctly again, Nalumina Mundia was from Western Province. He was not Bemba. And then Kebi Musokotwane was from Southern Province. I think he was the last prime minister. And then also Malimba Masheke was prime minister at one time. Now, if that the president can say that we had a bunch of a clique of thieves, I think that is hypocrisy of the highest order, because he's insulting Mainza Chona, he's insulting Nalumina Mundia, he's insulting Malimba Masheke, he's insulting Kebi Musokotwane. And it is unfair for the president to behave in that manner. To say, to pick up a group of people and say, these are the thieves from other regions. It is dangerous. I think Zambians have a duty now and never give this man another chance. Remove him completely and with a landslide. We don't need a man who can divide the nation to this extent. We don't. A man is so hypocritical How can you put yourself on top and disregard the works of all these other heroes? Mainza Chona did a very good job. Nalumune Mindia did a very good job. Kepi Musokotwane was a hero for this country. Look at Marimba Masheke. And you come and claim that these people were a clique of thieves. Is insulting the same people. Is insulting Mainza Chona, is insulting Kepi Musokotwane, is insulting Nalumino Mundia. Because these were the people that were running government. They were the prime ministers. Thank you, Ambassador.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And now there's a flood of course outfiletwa tusha mwewantu wakwalesa nechipelankula nachochila tusha. You have to excuse us. We have to rest if we have to come back for you later in the evenings. Dr. Brian Sampa, who's been my co-host, and he has pledged himself that is available in the next 15 days just to deal with the issues of elections, that he can be available early in the morning every day. And thank you, Doc. My software can has capacity to host up to 6 people at the same time on the same screen.
Wow.
So please, I'm happy that you've provided yourself and others that wish to. We analyze the issues affecting our country as we go to the polls. What will determine how we will be as a country in the next 5 years. So, Doc, I'd like to thank you for joining me and thank you for your sacrifice. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Please take some rest and enjoy your day.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, and have a good one. You also need to rest. Don't go on and on because you need to rest. We need you healthy.
Thank you, Doc.
Okay, thank you.
For you, dear viewers who joined us, thank you very much. We'll see you later in the evenings. I think I've got some guests that will join me in the evenings. See you then. And Doc will be back tomorrow as we review the newspaper headlines.